This 5-10 minutes is definitely not enough to introduce Balaji, the kind of accolades he has. So currently he's been with he set up this Invento, right? The he likes the word Invento. So Invento Robotics in the last 5 years. How many of you have seen this Mitra robo? That inaugurated the industry forum with Modi when Ivanka Trump was here. It's not just the Mitra. He went on to create self-driving robots for hospitals, especially notably the Astra disinfecting hospital with UV radiation. And then he also went on to do the coronavirus, uh, you know, uh, trying to track temperature, do a patient check along with voice conversations and other stuff. And then the latest form, is called Asta Robodoc, which will, work more like a doctor, which will take directions and then it will actually move to the patients, be able to give suggestions to the patients and all that stuff. So, like I said, there's quite a bit of things we can talk about Balaji, but let me not take too much time here. I will request Balaji to share a few words and then about what he's doing currently, what's his vision for. I would ask this question, without any, what's his vision for the country? What's his vision for the youth? Maybe he wants to share that with all of us. And then probably we can, ask some questions to him. Only good questions, right? You have a lot of questions, I know. So I leave it there. Request Balaji to, jump in, and it's all yours, Balaji, now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the introduction. We at Invento are one of the key goals that we are working on is being able to make medicine into a far more reachable, far more accessible, and far more smarter one. Healthcare as such has not fundamentally changed in decades. So we are building robotic avatars that would enable doctors to have their avatar in multiple locations, and these avatars will be able to do a lot of the activities on their behalf, and be able to cut down the doctor's time to diagnose and interact with the patient significantly. So the goal is to enable doctors to handle twice or thrice more patients in the same time, and be able to access patients across the country. And we're also selling these robots in 5 countries. We are among the few companies in India that exports hardware. So we export robots to US, Singapore, Australia, UAE, Qatar, and so on. So this is a Mitra. This is a earlier version of Mitra. We are bringing out the newer version of the Mitra, and for this we are building these robotic avatars, and there is this global contest going on for the X Prize robotic avatar contest. The X Prize is the sort of the Olympics of technology. It's a $10 million prize. The highest and most respected one in technology, where companies like Google, Airbus, Boeing, and all compete. And we are one of the leaders in this competition, and we are in the semifinals of this competition, competing with the global companies. And one of the key areas to build and show is having these robotic avatars that will be that will be able to do many of the things that you command to do. So if you are a doctor, can you do remote diagnostics and probably even remote surgery in a location thousands of kilometers from your hospital? Sort of things. And on the right is the Mitra inaugurated by Prime Minister Modi and Ivanka Trump. And one of the key problem areas we are looking at for the immediate thing is the telemedicine done through WhatsApp video, Zoom calls, and so on. They do not provide anywhere near the quality of the physical engagement, because doctors do not get the all those things that they vitals that they want to get in, like the temperature, BP, ECG, and the pulse, and so on. So it is very, very limited in its engagement interaction. What we are looking at doing is doing telemedicine 10x better, and then being able to cut down doctors' time significantly, as well as provide far more better quality to the patients. So the analogy I would give is, think of like walking to an ATM machine. Like 30 years ago, ATM machines were coming up, and so the primary value proposition was you don't need to walk into a branch. We can get most of the activities done in this ATM machine. The similar thing that we are doing for healthcare. These robots will be in a variety of locations, including high-end pharmacies and so on. And then you can walk into it. They'll be able to do a lot of this interactions and engagement, and then also you connect to a remote doctor, and be able to do engagement as good as a in-person visit to a hospital. And so this middle ground between a smartphone based telemedicine that is done by Practo and others, and the visiting the doctor in person. This is going to take the best of both worlds, but done in a far better way, such that your cost is going to come down significantly. You can meet any specialist right close to your home, and with a quality almost as good as walking to the doctor in person. So some of the key features we are doing, so I would not go too deeper into it. So the goal is to be able to identify the patients and be able to collect temperature, answer the patient's questions. So speech technology is one of our core strengths. So to be able to answer a lot of the patient's questions, as well as be able to collect the symptoms through voice itself, and then securely maintaining all the data, and then doing analysis on the data before connecting to the doctor remotely. So the doctor, like even before the doctor sees the patient on the video, he has all the necessary details. And the doctor can also control some of the camera and so on, and get a better view of the patient, and finally give a diagnostics through the robot itself. The prescription gets printed through it. And the key this thing is, so we deliver telemedicine through these robots, and we're also bringing newer versions with better capabilities on the robotic arm to be able to keep the user stethoscope, place it, and then also take in far more diagnostic equipments. And we work with some of the leading hospitals in India and some of the leading healthcare providers globally. And then we are applying deep learning models. And as we apply these models, many of the things that are currently not possible. So for instance, let's say you have like 1,000 patients across different clinics. They have breathlessness at this point. There is no way like a government or a WHO or ICMR would know that there is this thing existing, because this data that is coming in healthcare is very, very siloed, and it doesn't move across. So there's hardly any machine learning also applied on top of it. We are imagining this thing where these thousands of healthcare robots, these are all networked, and these are constantly collecting patterns. And so as soon as we see a pattern emerging, that these in this age group, in this people with this profile, there is this new set of symptoms and patterns emerging. Then we can then start alerting the authorities, and then enable them to actually keep a watch out for symptoms far better. So this will enable global healthcare to move significantly better, because the pandemic that was there since October, November timeframe was discovered only after January, because it takes months for data from different clinics to be aggregated, and to see a pattern, where we are talking about real-time analysis of this data, the machine learning. So in multiple ways, we are talking about changing the healthcare substantially, reducing the cost, increasing the quality, increasing the access, and most importantly, increasing the availability of data to look at whether, like the emergence of pandemics and new diseases. Um, and so we compete with some of the global companies, like there is an American company called InTouch Health, and then there is a Japanese company called SoftBank Robotics that recently moved to the US, and there are a couple of European companies that we compete with. And in India, we deal with some of the large hospital systems. So this is our big idea. We'll also talk about the way future. So robotics as a big idea, the time has come, and many of the underlying technologies that enables the robots to work in a high level quality, those underlying technologies, whether it is in the voice or vision or autonomous navigation, those technologies have matured quite a bit. So what we are talking about is a reality where many of these mundane tasks we could be doing through these robots. And rather than thinking of in terms of job terms, think of in terms of how your life is going to be changed. So think of like what happened when PCs came to your life in late 80s. So that changed the way our entire economy works. So whole new sectors got added, whole new set of jobs got added, and whole new ways in which people can elevate up in their life got added. Similar thing what we see is robotics that potentially could offer 3 to 5 times bigger size of the market as a PC market, and be able to change a range of industries. We are changing right now the healthcare industry, but a number of other industries are going to be changed over the next 3 to 5 years. It's a very exciting time. And we in India, we have to grab this opportunity fully, because if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. And rather than us being followers, we have to be the leaders in this space. So this particular level of advancement, no other country has gone in terms of robotics in this, like in a healthcare space. So we want to keep that lead and keep building out these robots for the world. And companies across India, we have to be seeing how the previous generation of like this Infosys and TCS, they were able to take on like the services segment. You want to take on the product segment, especially in the machine learning segment, and can go completely massive. The time is right for that. Thank you. So I can take questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Balaji. That was great insights. So we can open the forum for questions. So how is it, Vijay? Someone is going to type the question on the chat, or?
We have some questions that we've already collated, GK. So
Okay.
Bhupalan has those questions. Apart from that, the forum, people here, if they want to ask questions, they can ask, and then Bhupalan can go over the rest of the questions that are already collated.
Yeah, I think we can open the forum.
Yes, GK. GK, you want to start with your question first? Probably you had a personal question.
That's a privilege. Thank you so much. So one very curious question I had, Balaji, was what are the major challenges in developing a robo like Indiran that we are seeing, right? And how far are we from seeing a robo like Indiran?
So the thing is, yes, movies take on things and exaggerate many of those aspects. But many portions of it, for instance, are having a very skin, like close to human skin-like things. So there are companies that have worked on the human skin-like. So, for instance, a while ago, I was in Singapore in one of the robotics labs. And me and the robotics researcher were talking on something, and then they were constantly referring to the robot. And then I was just asking where the robot is. And then so the lady that is sitting right next to us, that is a robot. So I was just
okay.
So there was a girl who was like keeping the head down, and we thought I was thinking like somebody was actually reading over there, and then it just lifted up, and so I got a creepy hell out of this thing. So it was so because of skin and all those texture, everything very very close to a human in that sense. And in terms of ability to recognize speech, the quality has increased substantially. In fact, if you use your Google Home or even your Google's voice recognition at this point and speak Tirukkural to it, it will be able to recognize Tirukkural as such. So and they can do the same thing in 140 languages. Imagine being able to recognize poetry. That level of quality in speech recognition has been achieved over the last 2 years. And in terms of being ability to move the joints and so on, there's a lot of improvement that happened in especially in robotic surgery. So I was at the World Economic Forum where the world leaders in robotic surgery is a company called Da Vinci Robots. So they enable doctors to have a very very high precision surgery. So like surgeons are very very precise, and this robot is like 10 times more precise than a surgeon. So the surgeon will move their hands and the robot will reduce their movement by 1/10. So if you move it in at the millimeter level, the robots will be doing at the micrometer
I
level.
see. Mm-hmm.
I was able to cut like a rose petal like very precisely through the system. So like the preciseness in terms of the joints have improved substantially. So individually different pieces in robotic surgery, the joints have improved substantially. The robotic skin it has improved, the robotic voice. But then there is no motivation to do an endurance like this thing because there is no commercial need for it. But plenty of underlying technology is already there. But the final portion of it is like, for instance, artificial general intelligence, it's called. So to be able to understand everything that we speak. So there is an artificial special intelligence, which is like, specific domains for which it is trained for. For instance, we are training for healthcare. So that is something that is already there. But artificial general intelligence to be able to answer across domains, that is something not there, and probably that is a one missing piece for a long time for Indra and like.
Thank you so much, Balaji.
Hi Balaji, so this is Bhupalan. So I have a few questions in mind. For the Astra robot, right? So the one that disinfects the entire area and can move autonomously among a hospital or factory and disinfect the area. So how do we actually measure the outcome of it, the effectiveness? Like when we say it kills the germs and disinfects the area, now, how do we usually measure the efficiency?
So there are two parts to it. One is the efficiency of the light itself that we test out in labs and in hospitals. So there is a specific culture you put it in, and then that expose the culture to the light and see the efficacy of the light, this thing. Our manufacturers, so we get the lights from different suppliers, and these manufacturers, they have their own certification proving that these lights kill viruses. And there's a lot of both the science as well as technology on how these specific lights kill them. So that is first part of it. The second part of it is, so knowing that these lights kill, so we have to prove that our robots have gone across the nook and corner of this warehouse and be able to have the light over there. So the quality of the light itself we have proven individually. Now for the customer, we actually give a heat map kind of a thing. So where the robot keeps going around that entire warehouse or a hospital, and then as it moves, it will be creating a heat map. So it will be giving them a live report. At any point of time, they can see where have all these robots gone, and then when was the last time. So that is where that reporting, visual report, you can see your office itself mapped by the robot, and then the heat map given. That's how the efficacy is measured.
Thank you so much, Balaji. So some of the other questions that we have received, among them is what is the general tech stack and hardware considerations for building a humanoid robot? For example, since you said we are actually running deep learning algorithms and machine learning algorithms, computer vision algorithms. So the memory size, processor speed, do we have any limitations there? Like how do we usually design such hardware?
There are multiple pieces. So just like your human this thing, so the human beings, we again process in multiple this thing. Our brain itself again, it is in multiple multiple components, like including amygdala and so on, which each of them process independently. So what we process in a conscious state and what we process on a subconscious thing, and then we have the spinal cord that is doing a lot of the nerve level this thing, which is like motor skills and so on. So our when we're talking about human, we're talking about how do you have a spinal cord that is able to connect to all these nerve centers, be able to control the motor this thing? How do we have the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex and so on? So we don't talk about like one system; it is a series of systems. Similarly, when we have this humanoid, so the one part is the physical form and shape that is there. Then the second part of it is the arms and so on, how the arms can move, or the fingers can move, all the mechanical aspects of it. Then the third portion of it is going to be on the the interaction portion of it. So how does it do speech to text? How does it do the understanding of the text and natural language processing? How does it actually convert the text back into speech? What do we call it? Speech synthesis. How does this whole interaction is managed? And how does it do face detection? How does it do facial recognition? All of that, we keep it in a interaction layer. So this is currently done on an iPad. So all this, so we have a custom app that is built that is extremely powerful enough to use the full power of the Apple's ecosystem to be able to do all the speech, vision, and so on. Then there is this there is a powerful Intel machine sitting inside that is doing far more advanced level processing, like applying TensorFlow models and or even looking at various level of computer vision aspects. So this is all done inside the robot. Then we have another big layer outside on the cloud, where these robots all keep talking to that, and that's where the patterns and all will be evolving. And underlying this thing, there is this, like a spinal cord, there is this whole embedded system layer that manages all the different peripherals and then doing the power management and so on. So there is multiple layers of intelligence that is out there. And each of those layers, they have multiple components that is out there. So designing this thing, then we have to be building each of those individual components in finally getting this humanoid.
Awesome. Thanks, Balaji. If anyone has any questions, we can ask freely, or I will go with the pre-submitted question.
One question, Balaji. Right now, you mentioned that these robots can also do surgeries, right? Do we have those in place? Not yet.
I mean, not our robots do surgery. So there are robots that do surgeries.
Oh, I see. Right now, our robots, do we have anywhere in India right now? Are they serving any patients or not yet?
Yeah, so, we work with some of the large hospitals, like including Apollo hospitals. So we serve patients, but these are all diagnosis. So you walk to the robot, will be doing a whole range of conversation, doing like decision tree for symptom identification and those aspects. So more at the diagnosis level, not at the surgical level.
Okay.
Hi Balaji, I'm Srinath here. I just have one question. You said robots are being inducted in the healthcare side, right? In hospitals. Likewise, do they really have the idea of inducting them in the borders to God? I mean, why when this came in Indran as well. That's what the idea of the scientists were. They wanted to induct them in the borders, or to, I mean, maybe they get into the restriction context of it. But seriously, does government have any idea to induct them, replacing soldiers and stuff like that? What would be the practical reality there?
Not replacing soldiers, but a lot of automation. So we are also like a part of the defense manufacturing establishment. So we are a member of the Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers. We are inducted into that, and so but many of the ideas are still in early stages. So one of the idea is in like bomb detection, bomb and mine detection. So when they are having convoys of these vehicles moving from one part of the Kashmir and to another part, not just Kashmir, many of the other critical areas, including like Chhattisgarh or Nagaland and so on. So you need to be doing the whether that route is clear for like mines and all those things. So what the military is looking at is like having robots using ground penetration radars, GPRs and so on, and be able to accurately pinpoint whether there is a mine or any suspicious thing, and then keep flagging them for like a more bomb disposal squad to come in. So that is one of the applications, like a convoy planning this thing. So these will be clear, doing the vehicular clearance kind of. And then we are also, so that is an area that we are actively working on, but still in early stages. And then there is especially in urban warfare. So in urban warfare, let's say you are having a apartment complex where there is a fight going on, either a hostage situation or anything like that, then having a robot, like smaller robot, go into it and then give like reconnaissance, like give like live feeds of what is going on and so on, so that you get to know who's there inside and so on, and possibly even do like in the next stage even do some explosion and so on, deliver the weapon through the robot itself. This is like in urban warfare kind of thing. So that is currently in progress. There are also a couple of other similar ideas. So most of it is in like saving the soldiers' lives rather than fighting. It is about like how do we clear in a hostage situation? How do we help diffuse bombs and those categories are me quite interested.
We have some questions that has come up in the chat. So the first one is, we are all aware of Sophia, the human-like robot. It can perform most human activities. What would be the technology involved in developing such a robot? And what's the time taken for developing such a robot?
Marketing technology. So Sophia is primarily a marketing technology robot. Okay, this is it doesn't have at this point any real application. This thing. So the hands-on robotics, they do a lot of applications. So this is a marketing. Sophia is a marketing view of it. So the primary thing, the skin that is there. A lot of companies have worked on like more human-like skin, and then they have applied the NLP on top of it. We're looking at robotics as a high-end or top-end systems. Sophia is not something robotics researchers get too excited by. There are a lot of other very interesting high-end robots. Like Da Vinci robot for surgical thing. There are like military robots for clearing things, and then like there's a spot dog that Boston Dynamics has for much more agile movement within a warehouse kind of an environment. So, and there's a robot called PR2, extremely very respected. So those are things what the robotics researchers would respect as a thing. Sophia is more a marketing robot than a scientific one.
Thank you, Balaji. The next question is, the company has managed to produce robots that are completely manufactured in India and exported to other countries. What are the strategies that the company uses to reach such a global audience?
So it is quite a hard thing, and most of the hardships is created local. Getting our robots out is a very big pain. In fact, most of the pain happens like before the robot leaves our country. In fact, very little drama happens at the customer end. Whether it is a customs thing or the huge amount of bottlenecks. So world is right now looking out for advanced technologies that can help automation, and world is also looking for non-China based technologies that are coming in, because especially these are going to be very smart systems that collect a lot of data, and you don't want to trust the Chinese with your data. So there is a lot of interest globally, and India can utilize our strength in software, and when we pair the hardware with it, it becomes a very powerful combination. So that's how we select, like India's strength in software. What we are bringing in is our strength in hardware that complements the strength of software, and the cost of manufacturing in India is also much lower than even China. So that's the big picture. So India is going to be your future manufacturing destination. Although we have also told the government multiple times to utilize our strength in this thing and properly enable high-end manufacturing to go through. The government is still not very bought into that. So it doesn't take too much of a effort to convince the outsiders. It is our own inside this thing that is our enemy. In being able to understand the opportunities, being able to understand that we can do it. And China has its own weaknesses. So I go to China very frequently, and I'm part of multiple high-end groups in China. China has its own very glaring weaknesses. So we can utilize it. We can actually go high-end, but most of our people are not very interested at this point. So one is, if you want to start a company, you take the easy route out. So we slogged 4 years in building the technology. if I just point to like 2 streets away, there are like dozens of other companies that have spent far lesser time in the market, and they've been able to raise far bigger VC money in going through. There are multiple billion-dollar companies, the unicorns, in the time frame that we spent. So there are a lot of low-hanging fruits. So if you're a smart person, you might be looking at, okay, I can do app for like education and so on. There's a bunch of other applications available. So that is one area. Like not many smart people get into hardware, and our manufacturing is traditionally dominated by very old school thought. So they have their own biases and their own set of problems thinking this. So they think in 1950s, 60s thought. So you have one set. It's like a dinosaurs who do not like understand modern manufacturing, and then the other end, the younger population who do not want to sweat it out. There are like much more easier ideas in their mind. So that means the problem of producing is not as such in the production, is as such in convincing ourselves that we can produce.
All right, thank you. So the next one is, what would be the range for detection of mines, and does it use image processing technology in case of a hostage scenario?
So the mine detection, it is more depending on the quality of the GPR, the ground penetration radars. So there are multiple companies that build these GPR systems. It could be hitting out anything like above 10 feet. So if you dug a shallow mine, and most of the mines will be like 1 or 2 feet deep. And so those the GPR will be able to detect. So up to 10 feet, it can do the detection, and below that, it is very, very unlikely. And if you are dug that deep, it is also covering up that much. It's quite a hard one, and probably like satellite imagery would be able to show up. So this is 10 feet and above. And in terms of hostage thing, there's a lot of image this thing, including human detection and so on, like weapon detection, and those things are getting utilized.
Thanks, Balaji. So the next one from the audience is, I saw one of the articles in your website mention about the latest GPT-3
Yeah.
OpenAI module, NLP engine. So have you tried using it or cloud APIs, any cloud APIs as part of the robots, or the NLP engine is totally homegrown?
No, so we have like both homegrown. So GPT-3 is one of the engines that we're using. So GPT-3 is not yet ready for commercial use. So we got an early access because OpenAI CEO, he gave an early access to us. And so it's more on the testing phase, and they're also doing at this point the testing. The NLP right now, we actually we have both a homegrown NLP as well as we also integrate with third-party NLP provided by Google and Amazon. So it is multiple levels of NLP. So we give customers the option of either taking ours or taking the Googles and Amazons. Googles and Amazons, of course, they will have their own advantage in terms of, because they have far more data getting collected. Ours will have the advantage that is more configurable and the data is more secure. So it is a trade-off that they make. OpenAI, we are not yet offering to our customers because it's not yet commercial ready.
Okay. Thanks again, Balaji. So the next one would be, over a period of time, we can understand existence of robots will be on a large scale. How friendly will it be to the environment? And if there are any environmental effects, how are we planning to make robots eco-friendly, like biodegradable robot cities?
So see, as such, like just like any machine, like your PCs and so on. So the robots have components, and at the end of their life, that disposal would be cause of concern. But at this point, the number of robots is a fraction of number of PCs or this thing. So it's a very, very small portion we're talking about, and a lot of it would be recyclable. And in the long term, you're talking about is the robots themselves become the solution for the environmental crisis, like a WALL-E kind of a thing, because there is no way on Earth we are going to have humans being able to clean up all our waterways and other things. So the problem we have created is far bigger than us. So the solution also should be far better than us. So the robots going around and cleaning up the waterways and and then being able to process and different types of waste. That is going to be the wave of the future.
Okay, thank you, Balaji. Next, we have 3 questions asked by one person. If we are to upgrade a speech recognition module to the robot support an OTA update, what's a typical maintenance cycle? And also, how often do they need upgrade and services for parts?
So we offer this thing over there update. So most of the components are upgradable this thing. So we can upgrade through the cloud and do that. So even up to the level of firmware, we can upgrade portions of it. So although some small components on the embedded system, we cannot still do the thing for various reasons, for safety and so on. But most of the other components are all updatable through this thing. And the typical maintenance cycle, so these robots live anywhere between 2 to 5 years. So with an average age of average life expectancy of about 3 years. And so it depends on how much moving they are, and so the robots are continuously in motion. So many of those components, especially the batteries, will wear out faster. And if you are talking about the use in let's say the ultraviolet lights, so the lights they could go off. Again, it depends on how long it is they are getting used. So the maintenance is very variable. Like so if you're in your phone itself, it's quite variable. Like so some people break their phone in 6 months, and so some other people like they have the phones for like 5 to 8 years. It's quite a bit variable based on the environment it is used and who is maintaining, and then how much the thing is used. So at this point, the maintenance cycles are very variable, very industry specific, and very use case specific. And so the answer is variable.
All right, thank you. The next question is about telepresence robots designed for offices and treating COVID-19. What are the main advantages of Invento robots over telepresence robots?
So at this point, so telepresence robots we see as like sort of another alternative. So compared to telepresence robots, we are talking about like packing a far range of intelligence, especially conversational intelligence. So that's something a critical piece of how our thing works. And the robots use its things like eyeballs and hands and body mannerisms to get the conversation to work better, far better. And then we also have a much more superior autonomous navigation technology than telepresence robots. Most of the telepresence robots are sort of like remote controlled from this thing, and then you move it on. So we're talking about much more superior navigation algorithms, much more superior conversation algorithms, and so on.
Okay, we have a very interesting question next. How do these robots handle complicated surgeries? And if something goes wrong during these surgeries, do they have a presence of mind to handle such situations?
To clarify again, like we are not doing robotic surgery. We are doing robotic diagnosis. So robotic surgery is like I know a couple of other companies that do it. We don't do it, and in these places the surgeon is pretty close. So we are not talking about like doing. They are not talking about doing in a remote environment. The surgeon is probably like 3 to 4 feet away from this thing. So if you search for Da Vinci robot, you can see probably I can open up. So like in case of a problem, then what happens is the surgeon can get on to it right away and continue so you're not completely replacing the surgeon as such. Show you a image of this thing. So you can see this image. So so here the surgeon is sitting like so 3-4 feet away from this thing, and is able to look at what is going on, and the surgery is happening over there. In case of like robot in the middle not being able to perform as well, they can as easily move the robot away, and the surgeon can do it through the manual methods in case if it is needed. So these robots are to improve the precision of the surgery.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, Did robots prove to be cost effective for clients who used Invento products to solve their problem? What are the key challenges in terms of skills you're facing to build them? And how can Payoda contribute to this?
Sure. So the first part is the cost effectiveness. So for any technology, it takes time to prove the cost of effectiveness. In fact, we joke that computers have been there for 40 years and still, like, you know, if an organization asks, like, you know, how much can a computer save my cost? Even now that question is an open-ended one. So let's say a doctor asks, should I buy a PC for my front desk or not? And how much of a cost will it cut? There's no easy answer to that question. So yes, you know, we believe, like, you know, it can cut costs, but for even something as old as PC and as utilized as a PC, there is no clear-cut solution whether it can help you cut costs. And so it depends a lot on how much the customer is taking in, how deeper they are taking in, and so on. But based on our analysis, so we can cut down the physician's time by 30-35% in their interaction, and the overall overhead cost that the hospitals do, anywhere between 50-60% of the overheads also we can cut in. So we talk about the cost reduction over time, but then will it happen on day one? It's not going to happen. It is going to be happening over a period of time, and that depends on how quickly they adopt the technology and how quickly they change their own workflows. And in terms of key challenges, so a lot of it is like, being able to translate the business business logic into the robotic one, and being able to build many of those things. So at this point, the robotics industry is still in a very early stages. So many of them we have to build the underlying technology ourselves, but eventually it would come down. But I do not have a deeper insight into what all segments that Payoda operates. But as a consultancy company, there's going to be a lot of ways in which the robots are going to be extended into different sectors. Just as computers touch every segment, robots are going to touch everything that we touch over the next 10 to 15 years. So it is about, like, you know, discovering all those different problem areas and keep building the workflows and the business logic and so on, building on this. And so it's going to be a whole another set of industries going to be created by robotics. How and what would happen is hard to guess. But individual companies, them working with their customers, they can actually refine the logic.
Thank you. Hi. We just thought we'd switch it up a little bit. So I'll also be asking a few questions. So one question that's there in the chat box is, what would be the cost of maintenance and the replacement of such robots if they're used in the manufacturing process or in healthcare?
So as I said, like, you know, so the cycle quite depends on the users. So if you are using 24/7, it's in a very high volume location, and patients are coming 24/7, and you don't want to have a lot of downtime, then pretty much you will be going for higher level of redundancy. You will be doing preemptive maintenance much more. So that the cycle will be, like, you know, as little as 3 to 6 months. You might be replacing many of the components. We are also providing a fleet management interface. So the robots will constantly keep analyzing what is happening within them, like what is happening to the batteries, what is happening to different sensors within the robot, and keep informing through a fleet management so that we can do preemptive maintenance. But as I said, how frequently do we need to do something? It depends a lot on the volumes that you are using. So as I said, like, it's very much like your phone. Should you replace your phone every year or every 5 years? If you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers. Same with robots.
Okay, thank you. Another one, the robots that are used in the front line, do they have any limitations? And if they do, what are they? Is there a way to overcome this in the future?
A front line in the sense of military line?
Yes, I'm assuming so.
As I said, like, you know, frontline at the border level, I don't know of very many robots. So, but then there is like, you know, your drones are used much more because of the terrain limitations. So I mean, like, if you broaden the definition of robots to include drones, Then there is a lot of drone usage on the front lines. And but in terms of robots, they are more used more interior. So like the road clearance, as well as in urban warfare. And even in these applications, it is still in early stages. It's not like done in a mass deployment. Over the next 4 to 5 years, that will become more common. But military itself is relatively like a slower adopter of technology. It takes time for them to adopt any technology. So they have to look at a lot of the political, economic, and internal politics that they have, and of course they have to also look at validate everything is mill grade specifications and so on. So it's unlikely to happen in the next 1 to 2 years, but probably next 4 to 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Something that I wanted to ask before, like I forgot, was a lot of robots are being developed with emotional intelligence, especially in the educational or in the healthcare sectors. So what exactly do you believe would be the largest value add that would bring to global development?
So at the so we have our we call our robots this thing the Mitra, because we say this is not just a robot, it is your friend, it is your trusting partner, because people at the end of it, the people who are going to use it, those are the most important portions of it, and they have to be able to like it, they have to be able to love it and adopt it. And so when we design our robots, we place a lot of emphasis on likability. In fact, likability comes at the top of our this thing. So there should not be any level of creepiness when it comes to this robots interaction. So people have to feel very friendly. So there should not be like any metallic part visible, and so on. So this is and also the robot should be able to understand the emotional level of the person. So to be able to fine tune its engagement. So unlike other devices, the robots are also constantly understanding its environment. So it can understand the emotions and configure its this thing. So for instance, when we see a person with an angry face, so the robots we try to do with like a winking or like sad face, so that itself just get them out of it. Ultimately, it is about user experience. So the user experience is one of the key difference between why you pay pay for 100,000 or 1 lakh rupee phone, then you can get a 3,000 rupee phone. It is about the user experience, and emotions in a robot are very, very needed to give that user experience.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Are you guys at Invento using robot operating system, or are you going with proprietary tech?
So we build a proprietary tech on top of for us.
Bhupalan, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, okay. So if it was up to me, then I will have Balaji talking for whole day. But since Balaji's time is also like more important, far more important than of us. So we'll take just one more question or one or two, and then we'll call it Suchitra. So what do you think about the autonomous vehicles in Indian context on non-Indian roads? So what are the challenges there in your opinion?
So 4 years ago, when we started as an autonomous vehicle company. And so what we did was our goal was to do deliveries in a larger scale. So in 2016, we saw that deliveries could become a huge thing. At that point, Swiggy was getting slowly getting that. It was still a young startup. So we thought like deliveries, we can have this Honda Activas going around our city roads and delivering food. That was our big idea. And so we started hacking Honda Activas and completely automating their systems with our technology. And then we were able to get the robots, get the Honda Activas move with the cloud control. And then what happened was we went inside to celebrate, and the system rebooted the system inside the scooter. And since the tool was not very tested, it was still in POC stage. So we had the moving the accelerator thing in the setup in the startup thing. So as soon as the system rebooted, it set the accelerator to full speed. So we just went in, and then when we came back, the scooter was going at full speed. with nobody around. And so it gave everyone a big scare of their life, because our street guys got a very big shock, because they saw a scooter coming towards them with nobody in it. And luckily it did not hurt anyone. It went and hit a wall and flew 10 feet away. So the biggest thing we realized is, like, so many unknowns in this thing, and in Indian laws currently do not have, like, our insurance systems and all these things. None of them are configured for it. Luckily, it did not hit anything. But if it had hit anything, like, we do not know what insurance would have covered. So that's the primary problem in developing autonomous vehicles in Indian context. And again, when we develop for India, we have to be thinking through Indian problems. So the Indian problem is, how do we do deliveries, and we are talking about close environments, and able to do, like, this Swiggy kind of, like, scooter deliveries, doing that, because our volumes are much higher. But like, cars wise, do we need to do autonomous cars? Like, the value prop is still not clear in India. And in terms of our roads are not as good, ready for cars to be completely autonomous. But scooters and cycle and smaller motorized vehicles probably. So we have to think the problem from an Indian angle, rather than trying to import what Americans do.
Thanks, Balaji. Okay. Neetu, you want to add?
Sure. So we've come to the end of today's discussion, a full 1 hour of non-stop information by Balaji. Thank you so much. I should say a very big thank you to you, because you've taken time out of your very busy schedule to be a part of this Tech Talk, and a very much deep sense of appreciation for the very unique session that we had. A lot of interesting Q&As. There are some more which we would be sharing with you. Few more are coming up. So thank you for being very patient enough and answering all our questions, however big and small they would have been. We've learned quite a lot about robotics, especially in healthcare. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We wish to collaborate with you again in the future. Thanks a lot for everything.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.